Each and every week on TheInformer, we reach out and cover the world game, that is soccer for some, football to those of us who love it. The man we go to is the man from Football Nation Radio, FNR, Athos Sirianos. Welcome.
Hello, George.
Before we get into the overnight results that occurred in the Champions League, I want to touch on a story that's just cropped up, and it's a local story, and it concerns a young footballer from Melbourne Victory, outstanding young talent who has shown flashes of brilliance. He's done something no one saw coming.
That's correct. So young Josh Hope, only 22 years old, has been part of Melbourne Victory for 3 or 4 seasons now. He posted on his Instagram that he has decided to step away from the game, the professional game, temporarily or indefinitely as far as we know. He has cited online abuse that he has received throughout his career
and other things
as being the main factor as to why he has decided to step away.
I noticed a tweet from Johnny Grimold, who is, I think, his manager or his agent, and he said he's just lost at the moment the love for the game. Can't play any sport if you've lost the love for it. But he's going to go back, I believe, and play in the NPL, try and keep up some of those friendships and see if he can rediscover that love, huh?
Well, we're hoping that he does just that and rediscovers his love for the game, because he was a very good player, was on Victory's list for a few seasons. But I think the one aspect of his post which struck a chord with everyone who saw it was he touched on the human side of professional sport.
We don't get a chance to see behind the veil too often, do we?
And it's something that a lot of the fans neglect because they see the players on TV, they see them in the stadium, and they don't recognise that aspect that, yes, they do see the messages and they are human. They do get very, very upset, and it hits them hard. So Josh Hope has used his Instagram platform to spread awareness, and unfortunately it's taken something like this to show us that we still have a long way to go in this space.
Well, it's certainly, when it comes to the social media, I know sportsmen and women in the past used to have their favourite reporters, people who had written good stories about them rather than bad stories, or poorer stories, or misdirected stories. So this is another layer of real pain and anguish that sportsmen and women have got to survive through. Some have the focus and can do it, others don't necessarily, or are troubled by other things. We wish him well, because I remember the first time he came on, and he was like an exciting bit of talent, captured the imagination of everyone, and gave them a precious goal when they needed it. And I thought, oh, here's a new career about to get going. Well, we wish him a chance to come back. Let's go overnight. Champions League. Zenit and Lazio played a 1-1 draw. Istanbul, Başakşehir and Manchester United. Guess who scored the winner there? It was the side from Turkey. They beat Manchester United, who've been on a bit of a tear until they ran into some side in the EPL. I think it was Arsenal that put them back on their bottom. So more pressure on their coach. Solskjaer is, wow. Is he going to stay on? Can he stay on? We saw Chelsea push on, 3-0 against Rennes. Sevilla beat Krasnodar, Bruges and Dortmund. Dortmund showing that they bounced back from that poor game last time round. Barcelona beat Kiev, so maybe the new president and the new administration has given them the lift they need. Juventus with Cristiano looked awesome against Ferencváros. And Leipzig has jumped up and beaten PSG, a mixed round of results.
Yes, well, that last one will raise a few alarms for PSG, because now that's 2 consecutive defeats in the Champions League, a competition they reached the final in last season. But it was 2 completely different days of Champions League. On the Wednesday, we saw 35 goals across the 8 games. We saw Liverpool thump Atalanta 5-0 in Italy. We saw Bayern Munich win 6-2. We saw a whole flurry of goals, albeit all one-sided in all of those games. And then this morning it all went somewhat expected, except for that Manchester United result. And here we were thinking Manchester United were the European specialists. They'd defeated Paris Saint-Germain. Okay, their league form hasn't been great. But now all of a sudden they've lost this one and they can't fall back on it. It's not as though they were thriving in Europe and we could say, well, okay, we can excuse the league form, but they've got the Champions League.
Athos, what have you made of Manchester United? It is very hard to put your finger on something because they have the players. People say to me they haven't got the squad, but I do think they have some defensive frailties which have been shown up in certain games, but other times you don't beat Leipzig 5-0 just a week and a half ago, and suddenly you run into another side that are playing in the Super League in Turkey that you should be able to cover.
Well, they've almost become the Robin Hood of world football, whereby they lift for the big teams, they take points off them, and then give it to the lesser-known clubs.
I'm thinking maybe it's more Jekyll and Hyde because you never know who's going to turn up.
You never do know, and they've got the quality, as you mentioned, but it's just not reflecting that. And in the Premier League as well, I think for expected goals, they're right towards the bottom, so they're not creating the best of chances either. It's not as though it's a matter of luck, as it might be for some teams. They're not reaching the standards that we're used to seeing from them.
Someone pointed out to me only the other day that Manchester United and some of the other clubs that are at the bottom were in a similar position last year, and yet they finished high enough to compete in the Champions League. So is it a blip, or is this a sighting for the future? Are we seeing a shift? Because suddenly we're seeing sides like Leicester, Spurs and others at the top in unaccustomed rare air. Liverpool is there now. It's taken them a few weeks to get there, but now they're well and truly at the top. But my goodness, it's starting to look like a topsy-turvy EPL.
It's eerily similar to that season where Leicester won it. Yeah. All the big boys, or this season...
Actually, they're ahead of that year. In terms of points and performance, Leicester is better off this year
there you go.
than the year that they won.
And what is also going in their favour is Manchester City, United, Arsenal to an extent. Liverpool, sort of, they're not playing at their best, and everyone is dropping points. So if an Everton or a Leicester can win those 50-50 games against the sides that they should be beating, and then pull off an upset or two against the traditional top six, it will go a long way towards finishing in that higher echelon of the table.
Speaking of winning, Europa League starts again the next round of matches tomorrow, overnight. What are we expecting to see? Are we hoping to see some more good results from the English clubs?
Potentially. The match to look out for, though, is Milan versus Lille. That is two teams in probably the toughest group in Europa League, but all the attention, and I'm sure everyone will be watching Milan because they not only have gone 24 games unbeaten in all competitions, but they've got one of the most informed strikers in the world up front, a 39-year-old called Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Do you know, every week we do this, and you mention Zlatan, and it seems to me that we should add a year every time we do the commentary, because this guy is playing almost as a 30-year-old, and he's closer to 40 than he is to 30. And he's a big man. His stature has helped him, but he's been a remarkable talent for an awful long time. And to see him, can he continue this form? He's 40, he might be 40, but he's still cropping up in spots where the ball is coming, and he has the composure, the poise to finish it off.
Well, Milan have always had a very good squad, but for some reason they've never been able to just break that glass ceiling as they've done in the past historically, and qualify for the Champions League and challenge for the league in Italy. And this season looks very promising.
Well, it's a young squad, isn't it? It's an incredibly young squad, and it's skewed by the fact that they've got a nearly 40-year-old.
He boosts the average up a little bit, doesn't he?
You think? What else should we talk about? The exciting thing here is that we keep hearing that there is some amazing news coming out of the Bulls. This is the Australian A-League side that we haven't heard of too much about. I'm talking about MacArthur Bulls. And suddenly out of nowhere, they seem to have picked up another Spanish star, and also a compatriot of his who last year was playing for Melbourne City, has chosen to go home, and suddenly we see him and a compatriot again from Spain in the upper echelons of La Liga, coming down under to play for them. what are you expecting to see there?
So MacArthur has looked to the Basque country in Spain, and we know Mikel Susueta was the player you were alluding to, and he only played 4 or 5 matches last season, but we saw the quality that he possessed.
Yeah, absolutely.
He went back to Spain due to COVID reasons, or else he would have been part of Melbourne City squad that eventually qualified for the grand final. So very happy that he is on the radar of an A-League club. His teammate or former teammate at Bilbao, Beñata, is the other player that MacArthur is targeting, and they've assembled quite a nice squad as it is, and bringing in two
Slightly older squad.
Slightly older squad, but there's a lot of quality there, and bringing in 2 Spanish imports who know each other very well from a great system over there at Bilbao will certainly not only put bums on seats, but give them that extra bit of quality that you need in the first few years.
Well, we're talking football, the round ball code. The man from FNR, Football Nation Radio, Athos Sirianos, giving us the lowdown on not only the European Champions League, what's happening with the Europa League coming up overnight, but of course also the goings on with the arrival of a couple of players from La Liga quality. That's tremendous stuff. Anything else that you want to mention before we close this up?
No, I think that's just about everything for this week.
All right, my boy. If you don't catch up with Athos on Football Nation Radio, make sure you join us next week for more on The Informer.